Oh, there we go.
Sweet, dude.
Nice. I like
Yeah.
the boards in the back. It's gonna be a while before you ride those again, yeah?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
No worries, dude. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into it. How did you get into fighting? I know about you and I know about your school and everything, but how did you get into fighting?
Well, it all probably started from when I was a kid and I got bullied when I was little. I was a little guy. I was such a late bloomer, and I didn't even hit puberty probably till I was like a sophomore in high school. So I think I was probably the littlest kid
Yeah.
in the whole high school. I think I was like 4'8", barely pushing 80 pounds, 77 probably. And yeah, I was so small. And of course, everyone wants to pick on the little guy, you know. So I got bullied when I was little, and I played football growing up, like Pop Warner, and did that. But once you got to high school, you know, they just wanted the big, fast, strong guys, you know. And I definitely,
Yeah.
I think I played one play my freshman year. I got to hold the PAT when the guy kicked the field goal one play.
There you go.
Yeah, I was like, yes, I
You're
played.
on the field. That's all that counts.
I'm on the field, dude. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then I remember the wrestling coach. I went to El Toro High School, and the wrestling coach came up to me and he was like, "Man, Adam, he's like, you got a lot of heart, and you're strong, really strong for your size, but compared to these, you know, 100, 180, 200 pounders, you're just a little kid. But how would you like to fight someone your own weight?" And then and so that's when I kind of got pushed into wrestling. And then I tried out for the wrestling team. And my freshman year, I wrestled. Like I said, I was so little. I think I lost every match. No, I won one match. That's right. I my first like 17 matches in a row. I think I lost. And that was pretty, I remember that was pretty demoralizing for me too, because I was so little and everyone would always ask me, "How'd you do?" And you'd be like, "Oh, I lost." "How'd you do?" "Oh, I lost." "How'd you do?" "I lost." And then I remember like when I won then I finally won one, I figured like, I was like, I figured this out. I think I got this now. And then I think I lost every other match from there.
You got the taste of
Yeah,
victory
then,
once though.
yeah. I made that win, that one, you know, which was awesome. And then and there was a legendary powerlifting coach over at El Toro. His name was Coach Vittori, and his son was Dominic Vittori, who was like one of the best football players that came out of El Toro High School. We were putting guys in the NFL back then. We had in the 80s and the early 90s. We had like a real good football team over there. So they had actually Coach Vittori was the national powerlifting coach for our national team, and he lived in El Toro, and so he was running the strength and conditioning program for El Toro High School. But he was just really kind of big, gnarly, mean, not really mean, but just like he didn't really talk to anyone. Everyone was kind of scared of him. And I remember I went up to him my freshman year and I just looked at him and I go, "Mr. Vittori, can you make me big?" And he kind of looked at me kind of funny, like out of the corner of his eye, like, and then he ended up putting his arm around me and he's like, "You know what?" He's like, "I can't make you big, but if you show up in my house every morning at 5 a.m., he's like, you can make yourself big." And everyone always wanted to train with him, but no one could go because it was like invite only, and he was like the gnarliest guy. But he invited me, and then I showed up every day from their point on for like years. But that summer, from my freshman year to my sophomore year, I put on like, I hit puberty as well. Like started hitting puberty, started getting a little bit of armpit hair. I was like, "Whoa, all right."
Things started changing.
And I put on like 30 pounds of like straight muscle though, because I was really doing like lifting properly, learning the proper techniques with him, and it was a real good strength and conditioning program, and it was all Olympic lifting, and so I came back my sophomore year, and everyone thought I did steroids. They're like, "What? Look at Adam, he did steroids," and I was like, "Nope, I'm actually lifting with Coach Vittori now," you know. And everyone's like, "No, he doesn't let anyone lift with him." And I was like, "He let me lift with him." I live with him every day, you know. And then everyone started seeing him like talk to me, and when we came in there, it's like, "No, he is. I guess he is training with Coach Vittori." And then I was on the junior national powerlifting team for a while. So I was wrestling, and then my sophomore year, I think I only lost 2 matches. So I came back, went from my freshman year to only winning 1.
That's
and
great.
then my sophomore year, I only lost like maybe 2 or 3 2 or 3 matches. I won every other one.
Wow.
And then I wrestled in high school, and my mom married my stepdad, who was just a great guy. And I almost lived like 2 different lives. Where it was like almost like, his name's Ian. I call it like, it's almost like before BC and 80. I call it before Ian and after Ian. Before Ian, it was a hard life. There was 4 of us on welfare and food stamps, and and in struggles. And then my mom met him, and he was like this great. We all moved. We went from a 1-bedroom house and where we all lived in the same room, a 1-bedroom apartment, to a house where we had our own bedroom. It was like, whoa, I have my own room now. But he was what I was getting at, he was a boxer from England. And so in high school I was wrestling, and then he started teaching me boxing too as well. And because it was that freshman year, I got bullied, and he was like, one day you're gonna be able to, these guys, these guys are either gonna try to bully you, and it's gonna be the last thing they did, or just payback will happen. God works in mysterious ways, So he started training me boxing too as well. So I was training boxing and wrestling in high school. And then one of the guys that I used to wrestle with all the time, that I could take down, like towards the senior year, I was lifting a lot. I wasn't like the best wrestler, because I was more into powerlifting, at the time, because I had Coach Vittori. The wrestling program at El Toro High School was good, but it wasn't like, we didn't have like a phenomenal program. But we're more known for our football and in water polo, and then we had like just we had this gift of a strength and conditioning coach there. So I was like, man, I'm just gonna take advantage of him. So I was more into lifting. But then when a guy that I could always take down in high school started jiu-jitsu, and I took him down one time, and he got me in a guillotine. It's like 1992, and he did I reveal my age right there?
Hey, I'm right up there with you, brother.
45. I graduated in 95. So this is 1992, 91, 92. And I double leg him, and he like gets me in a guillotine. And I was like, what was that? And he's like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, my friend. And I was like, I need to learn that stuff. And that was like right when UFC like 1 and like was coming out.
Yeah.
And then we were hearing about
Gracie,
about that, and so we were like, I gotta watch that. And I already knew about jiu-jitsu, and so and that's when Hoist Gracie came through, and just kind of just like, maybe it was like he was in like 2 or 3, but yeah, it was like 92 or 93.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he came through and just choked everyone out, dude. It was really awesome watching that, and I was like, yep, that's exactly what I want to learn.
Yeah.
And then so I searched it out, and then I was taking classes in like 95, a couple here, or 96, but I really didn't. And like 98, I signed up at Clever in Huntington. I found, okay, there's a place in Huntington Beach, Clever Jiu-Jitsu. So I started training at Clever, and then I didn't really take it seriously till like, I was like a once a weeker guy, for like, until like 2000. And then 2000, I was like, it just grows on you. And they say jiu-jitsu is for everyone, but it really is woven for that certain people are woven from that certain fabric that can handle it. So after about 6 months, it's only about a handful of people that can take it, and so I was like, after about 2 years of it, I was like, man, I really like this. And I wasn't wrestling anymore, and I needed that void, fill that gap, and jiu-jitsu was the perfect thing. So yeah, then got into MMA. I was actually coaching jiu-jitsu at OC Dojo up at so I started there early in Clever. One of the earlier guys was all Brazilians then, and so then it was like 2004-ish. I was training with one of my best. I started training with a lot of my friend that choked me out. He was over at. It's funny. We all started together, and then we were training my friend's garage, Troy Acker, who's one of my best friends, and he's just a legend, black belt world champion as well. And it's fun, but we were all like blue belts then, and he was, I think, I think I was a white belt or blue belt, and T-Roy was a blue or a purple, and we literally trained in his garage. Yeah. So I moved to Hawaii, so I wasn't stopped training at Clever, and then I met T-Roy, and then so we were training in his garage for years, and I was surfing, and that was the thing, because my family is from Hawaii, so it's always going back to Hawaii, back and forth, and trying just to get my double fix, So when I came back, I was we'd end up training a lot in his garage, and I just learned so much from him. It was amazing. It was an amazing journey. And then from there, OC Dojo opened, San Clemente. It was actually way ahead of its time, early 2000s. And Rick Bassman was the owner of that. And he was a legendary manager. I used to watch Rick Bassman actually back in the old like WWF days. Like, remember like the wrestlers that would, when they would come in and they would have the manager that would like pretend like he'd grab the ankle and then he'd be like, "Oh, I didn't do it." And the guy had the microphone.
Yeah.
And I forget those guys' names, the wrestlers, but he was one of those guys. I used to watch him on TV, Rick Bassman. And I was like, I know who you are, dude. I used to watch you in the used to like grab the guy's ankles. He was like the Ultimate Warrior. He was the Ultimate Warrior's manager. He was like all these like famous like managers. And then he was also after that, he got into MMA and he was a fight manager too as well. So he managed like Boss Rutan and Tank Abbott, and Stan Fry and Dan Severn and all these like Chemo and all these like legends that I looked up to at the time. And so, but he opened up a gym in San Clemente called OC Dojo in the early 2000s, where all these pro fighters were training. And it was so like, if that place was open today, that place would be a gold mine. It was literally the best place to it. It was like literally 20 years ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it had a yoga facility up front, had showers, and they had like 2,000 square feet of mat space. They had over 60 hanging heavy bags. They had like a 24-hour fitness on the side. It was in a huge like 20,000 square foot warehouse. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I went in there and Boss Rutan was teaching over there, like a seminar or something. And yeah, you never want to be Boss Rutan's dummy when he's teaching a seminar. One thing I learned the hard way. You're like, this is how you do a throw. And you're like, yeah. So I was like, oh man. But yeah, so I went up there, and next thing you know, and then so there was jiu-jitsu classes, MMA classes, and I was rolling a few times, and then I forget who it was. One of the pro fighters up there was like, this guy should be teaching jiu-jitsu here. And I think I was tapping out a couple pros or something like that at the time, because I started it so long before everyone else. No one really knew jiu-jitsu. They were mostly wrestlers and grounded pounders. And when you came at it with a little bit more chest, it was, and you could catch guys back then really eat with the easier stuff, triangle, armbar, kabura, guillotine was, that was like, they were like, what is that?
You just named my whole repertoire of moves right there.
Yeah. That was like that's all you needed to know back then, dude.
That's all I got.
You're rear naked choke and you're like a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up getting a job up there and I ended up teaching jiu-jitsu there. And all these fighters were coming through and then I would be training these guys and catching them and then eventually they were like, Adam, they're like, I'm going to Japan and fighting in Pride or wherever they're fighting, Hawaii, King of Pancrase, and they're like, you're catching me like easily. Why aren't you fighting? And then so at that time I was going to school. I was graduating from college and I got into mortgage loans. I actually got a degree in education and a minor in child development.
Wow.
Right when I graduated college, they literally had like a $40 million budget cut. They fired like 20,000 teachers in California. It was like, and I'm like, oh, sick. This is what my degree's in. And they're like, it's like, they're laying off people. I'm just like, oh man, what am I going to do now? So I ended up getting into mortgage loans at the time. And I did it for 6 months. I made some good money, but I just didn't really like the industry at the time. It was kind of, at that time, it was like a shady industry and I felt it. And I was like, I just don't like it. I can't sleep at night. Yeah. And then I had an opportunity. They're like, you know what? Well, you should just fight. And then so I had an opportunity. One of our fighters was fighting. He got injured at OC Dojo. I was training him, and they said that I could just jump in his spot. So I jumped in his spot, and then something ended up happening. So I ended up fighting MMA. That's how I kind of got into my MMA career for a little bit. Wow. And so that was a fun journey too as well. When it was all said and done, that was before they didn't have amateur fights. So we do like amateur fights, but it would be like non-sanctioned amateur fights, in a warehouse or it was like, some like just old school style of stuff, so it's like, that's how you'd basically, gyms would be challenging gyms and be like, like smoker matches where that's how you like got ready for, or like just see if you were ready to fight
Yeah.
pro.
Yeah.
And so I did a bunch of those, just all, and then eventually I took my first fight, and it was a pretty big pay-per-view fight. And this is a funny story. This is and I haven't. I'm pretty good at jiu-jitsu. I think I was like maybe a purple belt at the time, and I go to take this fight, and I'm fighting at 155, and it was on pay-per-view. And my opponent, his name was what's his name? Nico Medina. I think he was Nico Medina. Yeah, and he was just, we're fighting, and I ended up, what happened? We I go to fight this first guy at 155, and he doesn't make weight, or something happens at weigh-ins. And then, you know what? They're like, Adam, you can't fight this guy because this is what happened. I just had my son Kingston, because I remember I was like, why did I take the fight in the first place? I just had my son Kingston. I got married. I just had my son. And I remember I was like, okay, I needed to get paid. They were going to pay me some money. Like I said, I wasn't making that much money at the time. I was teaching. I left the mortgage job. I was teaching, and I decided, okay, I'm going to take this fight no matter what. And then all of a sudden, my opponent, something happened at the pre-fight medicals where he didn't get the fight. And then they come up to me. I'm just about to weigh in. They're like, Adam, your fight's been scratched off the fight card. You're not fighting, and we're not going to pay you since you never officially weighed in. And I'm just like, wow. And I'm like, what? And I had like literally like 12 weeks of training. I borrowed money from people, knowing that, okay, I was just about to have my son in like a month. I was just about to have my son. And I was like, I borrowed money, and I was like, knowing that I'm going to get paid and I'm going to be able to pay them back from the fight. And then now all of a sudden they're saying, you're not fighting. I didn't really know what to do. I was like, what am I going to do? And then they come up to me, and I'm sitting backstage like 15 minutes later, and they're like, oh, Adam, you didn't leave? And I'm like, no, I haven't left yet. And they're like, great, we have an opponent for you. And I'm like, what? We could still pay you the same amount that we're going to pay you. And I'm like, I'll fight anybody at this time, And they're like, it's at 170 though. Wow. And I'm like, wait, what? Not at 155? They're like, nope, it's going to be at 170. They're like, but you got to weigh in at least at 162. So start drinking water. And I'm like, all right, like,
go eat a cheeseburger.
They're like, I'm trying to eat food and pound water. I'm like, just trying to make 155,
Yeah.
And I think I weighed in like with like my keys in my wallet and my underwear or something, like weighing me down. I barely made weight. Yeah. And then I show up the next day, and the first guy I was fighting was like just regular, just a regular traditional stance. And then the next guy that I found out, Nico, was, he was big. He looked like Mike Tyson. My parents, all my family were there. People flew out from Hawaii, and people all like, and that's another reason why I didn't want to take the fight. I already sold tickets. It was just like, I'm like, yeah. I have people flying here, and from the islands, and so everyone, they announced the other guy's name because they knew what number I was on the fight card, and everyone like stands up, and they see the guy walk out, and you weigh in the day before, 24 hours. Before, this was before any of the weight regulations and everything. And the guy literally probably put on like 25 pounds, and we're fighting at 170. So he's probably, I'd say he was probably close to 210, 205, 210. He was just like, and he was huge. And my parents stood up, and then and my friends, and they're like, oh, this is not his weight class. And then they stood back down. And then they said, fighting Adam Watts. And they're like, what? And they stood back up, and then my friends coming running out. And they said it looked like David and Goliath. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, fighting this guy.
Wow.
And then so we get out there, and we go fight him. And he ends up I find out that he's the first guy I'm training for is regular. And this guy I find out in the middle, is a southpaw, right in the middle of our first exchange. This guy's left-handed. Good to know. I trained for righty my whole camp. Yeah. And our first exchange, he comes and he lands this big old shot and blasts me and cuts me open. I think I got like 20 stitches over my eye. And afterwards, so I'm just leaking. And then he comes at me again, like, and I sidestep him, and I lead with the straight right, because you always want to lead with the straight right against the southpaw, and I buckle him, boom, and he takes a knee, and to be honest, like looking back at it, that was my chance. I should have jumped on him right there and took the neck and just and choked him out. But I was so buzzed from that first shot that I like kind of took a step back, and it was just blood was gushing, and I tried to like shake it off kind of, and he like gets up off his knee and like bum rushes me up against the cage, and he's so much bigger than me, so he's like almost like lifting me up, and I try to like shuck his arms off and shoot in, and I shuck his arms off and I'm shooting in, and he throws this hugest uppercut and connected like right on my chin, like boom, and I buckled. And Herb Dean was my referee. So Herb Dean's the referee, and I fall up against like the cage, and I'm kind of like stiff. I'm in it though, so but I was like frozen. I couldn't move. I was like, oh, and I'm looking up at him, and he's like coming. Nico's coming at me, and Herb Dean is trying to break us up, and Herb Dean's like diving. And this is when Herb's like just starting, he has this in the early 2000s. Yeah. And so he's like, Herb Dean's like diving in to try to like get in between me and the guy, and he doesn't get there in time. And Nico and I can't move. I'm frozen because I'm so buzzed from that shot. And he goes, boom, and elbows me so hard in the head. Whoa. And my head literally like ricochets. It goes like off the mat, like wedged up in the corner of the fence. And I went stiff, like full knocked out. Yeah. Like, and I think they put the neck brace on me. They took me out in the stretcher. It was on pay-per-view in front of all my friends and family. It was a pretty demoralizing part. Yeah, that was my first fight. That was my first pro fight. That's what happens to me.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I remember trying to take the neck brace off on the stretcher. I came to, and the first person I see was my stepdad, Ian. You look at him, and he's like, lay down. He's like, lay the fuck down. And I'm like, yes, sir. Laid back down. And then it's funny because then I was at the hospital. I figure it was at Long Beach. No, it was at Anaheim. No, freaking Los Angeles Convention Center. And it was a King of the Cage tournament thing. And Nam Fan was the main event. And like Sada Wad, I think, fought on that card. And a bunch of guys were UFC fighters afterwards. We're fighting on the card. But it was funny because I'm in the hospital, and then all of a sudden, like 20 minutes later, I see like Sada Wad show up, and then like 10 minutes later, I see Nam show up, and then like 5 minutes later, I see my friend T-Roy show up, and then because T-Roy, we were fighting in the garage, he fought in the same card too. Yeah. And then like 10 minutes later, I see it. So we're all in the hospital in the same room, like high-fiving each other, and we were like in the middle of Compton. It was gnarly, and like people were coming in with gunshot wounds. And they're, who are these guys? And these are the fighters from the fight card that were at the Coliseum. But that's where I think it was, at the Coliseum. But that was my introduction to.
But you fought fighting again, right? You got back in.
Yeah. So then I had like five training camps in between that first fight and my second fight, because it ended up happening was I was training a lot, and then I in jiu-jitsu, and I started getting kind of like a reputation. So guys wouldn't want to fight me. It was weird. I'd get a fight, I'd sign a contract, or just things would happen. The stars and the moon and the tides would align, and like their medicals wouldn't get cleared, or they'd get an injury, and I did this happened to me like 5 times, so I went through 7 training camps. I should have had 7 fights, but when it was all said and done, I only had 2 pro fights. But I had my first fight, and then I had 5 training camps, and then where everyone didn't fight, or injury, or medicals weren't cleared, or something happened, and then finally, and then I'm in my mind, it's all happening too. I'm like, is God like testing me? Is this what I really should I be doing this? Are these signs that maybe I should do something else, or So I was kind of just like tripping a little bit. I was like, man, what's going on, dude? I'm really putting all my effort into these. I'm training with I was training at Sub Fighter at the time with Adam Lynn, and literally at that time I think we had the best lightweight gym in the world, man. We had like Nam was there, Ian McCall was there, Russ Meara was there, Josh Smith was there, Bao Quach was there, Troy was there, I was there, Joe Calavita was there, Andy Morales was there. Like we had some studs, Bobby Morales, like freaking so many guys were in there. And you'd walk in there, and it would be like it was on. You would like, all right, we're doing 10 5-minute rounds. we're going to live sparring. You're going to pick a new partner every time. And you would think, like, oh, the next one's going to be easy. There was no next one that was going to be easy. It was like you go from Nam to Bao to Josh to Joe to Russ to Adam Lin to, you're just like, like,
Yeah.
it was gnarly, dude. We were like born and bred, like we were like beating the snot out of each other in there, you know.
Yeah.
And then finally, I had my second fight, and and then I was going to be at the Long Beach Pro Fight Night, so 5 training camps. And then at the time I was just competing a lot in jiu-jitsu too, as well as training at that time. So I was up at OC Dojo, backtracking a little bit, and Rick Bassman, who was, like I said, legendary manager, all of a sudden I'm over there. I'm like pro belt in jiu-jitsu, and he says, he's like, hey, I got these 2 guys I met, and they said they want to come train with you. And I'm like, oh, cool, let's train. At that time, there was, unless you were like Brazilian high level, there wasn't any locals. Just to see a purple belt at that time was like, oh, that's gnarly,
Yeah.
you know. And he's like, I got these 2 guys that want to come train with you. And I'm like, who are they? He's like, they say they're world champions. I'm like, really? Yeah. And they're like, either Salu and Zandy Ribeiro. And I'm a Salu and Shanji Ribeiro. And he's like, yeah, they're coming right now. I'm like, what? And these guys are like the best in the world, like literally the gnarliest guys ever. And so they showed up to OC Dojo, and then they like tie me in a knot. And I was like, whoa, these guys are like my heroes. I have these guys' DVDs. I'm watching these guys' videos and studying and watching their matches. And next thing you know, I'm rolling with them on the mat. And then to make a long story short, they ended up becoming my really good friends. And then we ended up, they would come out, I'd pick them up at the airport. They would sleep on my couch, and we'd take them surfing. We'd go rolling, and they'd always ask me. And then they introduced me. They're like, hey, we have a good friend of mine. You know, he wants to move to San Clemente. I want to introduce you to him. He's a black belt as well. And they were like, where should we move? We want to move out here. At this time, they were living in Salo and Shanji. They were living in Columbus, Ohio, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, to be honest, there's an untapped, San Diego is untapped. No one's down there. There's 6 colleges all around there. You guys would go down there. Those are the people you want. There's people they have money down there. You guys could kill it. You know, and the next thing you know, they ended up opening up the University of Jiu-Jitsu down in San Diego, and they introduced me to their friend, and they introduced me to the guy that they were talking about. It was Paulo Gabel. And then so I ended up bringing Paulo up to OC Dojo with me. And then right at that time, OC Dojo, Rick Bassman, who was the owner of OC Dojo, was trying to purchase a building for OC Dojo, because he was just leasing that one facility. And then the mortgage, and it was funny because I was doing mortgage loans, and I know how shady the business was. And so the mortgage broker that Rick was dealing with was literally like blowing smoke up his butt, telling him, hey, we got the place, everything's going to be good. Rick was like telling him how awesome this new facility that OC Dojo is going to move to. We're closing, everything's happening. You don't even need to put you can basically put in your 30 days notice for OC Dojo. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to make a long story short, the place that he was trying to get, it didn't happen. He already turned in his 30-day lease for OC Dojo. That facility got rented. I showed up to work one day, and they're like, today's your last day. The new facility that we're trying to get, it didn't go through. Everyone was like crying inside. Rick was like, he couldn't believe that everything was like crumbling underneath his feet. And basically, he lost everything, you know. And then so me and Paula were like, man, let's go down the street over here and down in the surf ghetto and get a place together. So we ended up getting a place over there. We went in. We had like a facility, and then he was like, I was gonna do the MMA part, and he was gonna do the jiu-jitsu. And then to make a long story short, we ended up just kind of parting ways. You know, we kind of had different visions, you know, and I trained under Paula for a while actually. And we had a little bit of a falling out, and which ended up being like it's funny how when things happen in your life, you know, when you're going through it, you really you're like, man, why is this happening to me? But when you look back on things, you know, most good things happen when pressure's on. You know, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if that didn't happen to me. Yeah. You know, so we ended up having a falling out. We went separate ways, and then he ended up moving up to where he is now, and I ended up taking over the whole place down there.
And that's where you're
And
currently at now?
where I'm currently, no, it was up where I'm up in the surf kit. And now we end up moving 3 buildings over where I'm currently at today.
Okay.
But I was at the old facility there for like 10 years, you know, which was awesome. And Paulo was great. You know, he actually taught me a lot of really great stuff. And I actually have nothing really bad to say about Paulo. We just didn't agree on certain things. And he was more like gi traditional jiu-jitsu, and I was more MMA, no gi wrestling, like wrestling, pound your face in jiu-jitsu. And I still did gi jiu-jitsu too as well, but I just kind of had different. As I got older, I kind of went into more of that stuff, but at that time it was more MMA jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I ended up getting that place down there, and I was there for 10 years, you know. And then I ended up getting my black belt. I started in '98, and ended up getting my black belt. I ended up training under Master Ali over at A-Team and Checkmat and Leo and Ricardo Vieira. So I went over there in 2012 as a 4-stripe brown belt under Paulo. You know, we had kind of separated, just about to get my black belt. And then I got my black belt and my brown belt in 2008, and then 2007, and now it's 2013 or 2012, and I was just about to get it. And then I went over to Master Ali and over at Checkmat, and I found out through with one of my friend Ira was over there, and I found out through the grapevine that they said that if Adam thinks he's coming over here to get his black belt, he's coming to the wrong gym, because we don't give black belts away. It doesn't matter if he's a 4-stripe brown belt. You know, it's just like, I was just about to get my black belt basically. And then and they said that the only way he's going to get his black belt from us is if he's the number one ranked brown belt in the world for his age and weight class. And so my friend told me that. He's like, Adam, they're not going to give it to you. I heard that they said they're not going to give it to you unless you're the number one for your age and weight, unless you're the number one ranked brown belt in the world for IBJJF rankings. And I was like, all right, well, if that's what, and it's like, and it's like anything. You can go to, for academies too. You can go to it's like colleges. You can go to Saddleback College. It's like you can get a degree from Saddleback, or you can get a degree from Harvard. They're both colleges, but one degree weighs a lot more than the other, you know? So same thing with the jiu-jitsu academies. I could have gone to, you know, like a, you know, not as prestigious of a school and got my black belt really easily, but I decided I wanted to go to the Harvard at the time of an Ivy, like more of an Ivy League college, you know, for jiu-jitsu. And that was going to take, and so it took me another 2.5 years at that point. Once I went over there. Wow. So I went there in 2012. It took me 2014 by the time I got my black belt. So I won the worlds, I won the nationals. I took second at the Pans. I won the gi worlds. I won the no gi worlds. And then so when it was all said and done for 2013, I think it was 2014, I was the number one ranked for my age and weight, number one ranked on IBJJF rankings, brown belt in the world. And I remember showing it to like Ricardo and Master Ali. I'm like, see, look, look, I did it, you know. And then I got my black belt from them, and that was just huge, you know. And at the same time I had my own academy too as well, you know. And it's funny, when you're competing and coaching, both of them require 100% effort, you know. And so when I was competing, I could tell like my academy was suffering, you know. My students weren't getting what they needed, and because I needed, to be honest, I was very selfish, you know, and I was very tunnel vision. I needed to do what I needed to do to win. And that's, if you really want to be the best and you want to be number one, you got to do what it takes for you. You got to be selfish, and you got to be, you know, I was training nonstop. I was doing what it took to be the number one ranked, you know, fighter in the world. But the gym was suffering. And so right once I did that, and I got my black belt and I won it, and I was the number one ranked, and I kind of achieved those goals. I won the worlds. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to kind of pump my brakes on competing. And I'm going to focus on my students, because they got a lot of the raw end of the stick, you know. So then I kind of not necessarily, and then at the same time, I had some injuries too as well. I tore my ACL, and before that, leading up to the worlds, which was a whole nother story, which I'll get into in a second. But I ended up, retiring and from competing and just dealing with a bunch of injuries and just more focusing on the school and the academy.
Mhm.
But yeah, leading up, what happened was about the ACL injury. It's funny because I just got ACL surgery on this knee right here too as well. So this one I just had ACL surgery on
Is the
4
swelling
weeks ago.
is the swelling better than I saw it yesterday?
It is. I have yeah, I'll give you a little showing. So I got the
Oof.
KT tape on it.
Yeah.
And this kind of tape, this style of uh, like squid, the way they do the squid
Yeah.
like pattern, it's like it's for lymphatic drain because I have a lot of fluid on my knee. Like, just like you said, there's so much fluid on the knee
Yeah.
that the way they do it, it pulls the fluid over to the lymphatic system, which can actually now drain the knee. So yeah, it's getting a lot better every day a little bit better.
That's
Then
great.
2012, 2013, now leading up to the Worlds, at the Pans, I tore my ACL, and then I ended up. Oh, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. Okay, cool. And then I ended up rehabbing it, thinking that okay, I'm just going to tear it in the next fight. And then I ended up doing the Pan Ams, and I made it to the finals. And then I got robbed. Actually, I thought I won that thing, and they ended up giving. I fought like a Brazilian from Alliance with like the Fabio Gurgel in the other corner with a Brazilian referee, arm drag, single leg, take him down, passes guard. They give me no points for the takedown, no points for the guard pass. I'm thinking I'm winning 5-0. The guy takes me down. Time runs out. I thinking I'm winning 5-2. I look over at the score. I'm losing 2-0, but I have 2 advantages. I'm just like, what? They give it to the other guy. I was like, this was a robbery. My jiu-jitsu coach almost like loses it. And then freaking, so I ended up thinking, okay, maybe I'll tear it the next one. I don't tear it. Tear it the next one. Don't tear it. We end up winning the Worlds. Well, leading up to the Worlds, so I'm at the Worlds now. I have my ACL still kind of mangled, and and then I was like maybe a week out. I ended up getting strep throat, and I'm like, man, I got strep throat. This sucks, So I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, my son. I now have my son now. He's a little surfer grom, I'm like, I'm gonna take him down to Sano. He's gonna go a little longboarding out there. I'm just gonna hang out on the beach. I'm not feeling too good. My knee's sore. This is like on the Wednesday. I'm fighting on Sunday at the World. This is the Wednesday before, and there's this like little sand zone that you kind of walk out in between the rocks on the like little 6 inches of water, little sandbar. And I'm walking out, just kind of clearing my mind, looking at the sunset. It's like dusk, like it's like 5 o'clock. Sun's out there, surfing. And next thing I know, I step on a freaking stingray. It was like a screwdriver, dude, right through my Achilles. Like, and I was like, whoa. I was like, oh my God, did I just do that? And then the thing's like, and pulls out, and I'm like, oh, and I looked down, and it was my ankles just like gushing blood now. And I was like, oh my God, I just stepped on a stingray. And then I could barely make it home. I literally had to bury my foot and it was, I stepped on freaking the woolly, like grandpa of all stingrays. This thing was so big. And it went like in my Achilles and went up like 6 inches, and then it came back out and left all these barbs in my Achilles and my calf. And so this is on Wednesday. And then by the time Friday comes around, my ankle, it looked like I had elephantitis, dude. My ankle was so swollen. It was all red. And I had like gnarly staph infection. I go, man, I should probably go to the hospital. So I went to the doctors, and they're like, bro, what are you waiting for so long? They gave me like the biggest shot. They're like in my butt, like the needle was like that long. And they're like, the doctor literally tells me, he's like, Adam, I recommend like a month bed rest. He's like, you could have lost your leg. He was like, it was so infected. He's like, a major staph infection. He's like, go home and rest. He's like, here's some antibiotics. And at that time it's Friday night, and I was 10, and I'm 10 pounds overweight still too. Yeah. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, you want me to go home and go rest? I got to go cut weight.
You drain the fluid out of your leg, you'd lose your 10 pounds.
Yeah, just drain that bad boy, dude. And freaking, but it was one of those things, I set my goal. I wrote it down literally. I was going to win the Worlds, win the Nationals, win the Pants, win the Worlds, win the Nationals, win the Pants. And I'd read it every morning. It was the first thing I'd read when I'd wake up. It'd be the last thing I'd read before I'd go to bed. And then so I was like, at that point, and I did it for so long, now it's the Worlds. I was like, I don't care what's happening. I'm fighting, no matter what. And then so I leave the hospital and I go straight to the sauna to go cut weight instead of going home. Next day I wake up still like a few pounds overweight, still cutting weight again. And then on Sunday morning, I'm fighting that morning, and I wake up and I'm like a pound over still. I'm like, man, my leg's still swollen. I'm a pound over, my leg's swollen. I have a torn ACL. I have strep throat. I have staph infection. I got stung by the freaking stingray. I'm just like, and I'm thinking, I'm like, man, maybe my friends are all telling me though, these are signs, Adam, that you shouldn't do it. These are all signs, in my mind, I'm like, and my wife was telling me, they're like, or maybe God's just testing you to see how much you really want it, Adam.
There's
And I was
always
like, yeah,
double-sided sword. Yeah.
double-sided, and so
Yeah.
my wife, literally, she's the best. She duct tapes. I'm upstairs. She duct tapes above the shower. She trash bags and seals my shower in like a sauna and turns it on steaming hot. She's just laying there on the floor. So I just laid in the shower for like 45 minutes. And then I literally steamed it out of me. And I jump on the scale and I was like a quarter pound underweight. I was like, no way, I made weight. And at that time I felt like I won. I was like, woo. I hadn't even fought yet though,
First battle's over.
Yeah, the battle's over. And then I ended up going to the worlds, and then I ended up there. I was in Nogi Worlds, and at this one I ended up winning the Gi Worlds after that, because everyone said, oh, you won the Nogi Worlds, you can't win the Gi Worlds either. And I was like, yeah, watch.
Wow.
Then this was the Nogi Worlds, and then I ended up I think I had like 4 matches. My first match was pretty easy. Second match was pretty difficult. My second match, the guy went for a straight ankle lock 2 on my foot, and had so much fat on it that normally they have like your heel that it latches onto.
Yeah.
And there was so much fat right there that it just went like my heel was like one of those slinky things where it came out the inside and the skin was there, then the skin like came out afterwards. He was like, what happened to your foot? And I was just like, and I ended up catching him. And
You're like, thank you.
but it was funny part, the hardest part, the matches ended up being pretty easy,
Yeah.
and the hardest part was just showing up. The hardest part was dealing with all the stuff and in my own brain telling me, like tricking me and telling me, oh, you can't do it, or people just telling me these are signs, Yeah, but when my wife's like, God's just testing you to see how much you really want it, And once I showed up, and I was like, yeah, I'm showing up no matter what. Yeah, and it ended up being a real cool part of the journey and way to win, and it ends up being a real cool story when people start, students telling me why they can't do things or this and that, and I'm like, yeah, well, let me tell you one story.
That's great.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So that was it, and then from there on we just transitioned to like I said, that after that I've been focusing mostly on the academy and the students and the kids program. I really love teaching the kids, and that's like I have a degree in child development and education, and so that's kind of where I really pride myself is with the Groms and establishing that connection and planting that seed and getting that love for martial arts and jiu-jitsu, and at a young age. And when you can get that going with them, planting that seed before, realistically before they hit puberty, all that stuff is just ingrained in stone, versus something that kind of forgets.
Well, you're doing great at it, because my son loves it, and I'm there, and all those kids really relate to you. You're an awesome coach, and they all look up to you. So you're doing good. You're doing great.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I love it, man. That's sometimes it's when I teach those 2 kids classes, I'll have two kids classes back to back, and they say the attention span's 20 minutes. It's more like 20 seconds. I'll turn my head for 1 second, and they'll chaos over here, and I turn over here, and there's chaos over there. I'm just like,
you handle it better than I do. I was my son's soccer coach, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and that was only 6 kids, and you have 2 full classes. I'm like, I'm glad he's over there and I'm over here on the bench, because I couldn't do it.
Yeah, we'll have 30 kids, and then we'll have like another 40 kids right after that, and it's just like, it's pretty rad, but yeah, I love it. I love just watching the growth, and the kids. Some kids will come in just like, with no self-esteem, or they got bullied. They remind me of me. I see a lot of me in a lot of the kids, and that's what they, some kids have no money, we have a nonprofit that we were working with called Fighters for the World. We had a 501c3, and so we donated a lot of memberships to a lot of the local at-risk youth and low-income kids, and so watching them come in, and get that passion for it, do something that they never would be able to do, is really cool. And then watching kids just just to grow, on the inside from, kids that got bullied to all of a sudden have that self-esteem, or kids that were overweight to all of a sudden get in shape, or, or the kids that never come in that had like the thought of competing, to watch them all of a sudden to blossom to become like just awesome competitors. We're doing that too as well, which is really cool. Really proud of our guys. Berlin, we have Berlin, who's the number one ranked yellow belt in the world right now for her age and weight, which is really awesome. She's fighting on all over these pay-per-view events and Fight to Win pros. And she was just last weekend, we were in Vegas for the Jiu-Jitsu World League, which is really awesome. We brought 10 guys out there. I think there was like over 200 academies out there from all over the nation. Everyone's really itching to compete right now because everything's been shut down. So all these when a big tournament comes, it's like they had to stop. They stopped allowing registration for that tournament because it like overreached maximum capacity. So it was a stacked tournament. We only brought out like 8 people, and out of 8 people, we got top 10 teams, top 10. I think we were 10th academy out of like over 200 academies placing. Every one of our guys smashed, medaled. Some of them double golded, triple golded. It was really rad watching the seeds that they've been planted, like that fruit be like picked now, but backtracking, Berlin, she was the yellow belt. She fought in Dallas on Friday night for submission on the shores, and submitted a girl like 1 minute and 45 seconds. This a beautiful armbar Kimura, and then she ended up flying from Dallas to Vegas to meet the team out in Vegas Saturday so that she could compete Sunday with the team. And then she's only 14, so she's the yellow belt, 14-year-old. She won her yellow belt gi 14-year division, but they did in the Jiu-Jitsu World League did not have no gi for the kids. They only had adult blue, and they were combining the blue and purple belt division. So she said, "Can I do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead and try." So she fought the adult blue purple belt division as well for no gi, and she ended up, I think, got second there too as well, which was amazing. So yeah, she is just a freak, which is really cool. Just watching all the kids, and then my daughter did it, watching my family compete. That's one of the brings a tear to my eye. Which you always want your kids to love what you do, and when I get to see them in the gym. I was just telling my wife last week, I had my son on the mat, I had my daughter on the mat, and I was teaching class, and it was like, man, this is this is like a dream come true. Both of my kids are on the mat training, owning an academy. My son's like a little pro surfer. He's been doing all the contests every week, and we're traveling all up and down the coast from, doing the NSSAs, and from Ventura to San Diego to Huntington to T Street back. Now last weekend we're in Huntington. This weekend we're in Huntington again. And last weekend we had to separate it. He had to stay back and do a surf contest while the family went out to Vegas for the Jiu-Jitsu World League. So we spread ourselves thin, and now I'm getting into coffee too as well, which is a whole other venture. So, which is cool. We just opened up the coffee shop on the north side of San Clemente, SUR Coffee. So if you like coffee,
gotta make sure and come. Yeah, I didn't know. I just thought you were going in there. That's yours, huh?
No, that's my coffee shop. Me and some of my best friends, they got another coffee shop in OB Beans and Roasters. We roast our own beans. We're not just a coffee shop; we're a roaster. Yeah, we source our own beans. We fly. Last year we went to Ethiopia, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico. Yeah, we have relationships with the farmers, like really into small harvest. Like we don't want a bunch of crap. We want small amount of just the best coffee beans. We're really into the soil that it's grown in, the elevation, the fermentation process. We cut out all the middlemen. It's like farm to cup, straight from the farm, straight to our coffee shop. We roast it ourselves. My business partner, Mark, he's literally like a Q grader, like a sommelier for coffee. It's bitching watching him. To be honest, I just keep my mouth shut, my ears open, and I just listen a lot. And I've always loved coffee, but now just learning a lot more about it. And so we opened up the coffee shop up here, and with him and SUR Coffee, and roasting the beans, and that's been really fun too as well. The timing of that couldn't have been any worse. We opened literally 3 weeks before COVID hit. And we're open 3 weeks. We're killed it. And we're like, we're gonna retire. And then COVID hits, and we're like, and we barely made it through it, but now we're we won the Ole Hansen Award for 2020, which was the best new business in San Clemente of all the businesses combined. Of every new business in San Clemente for 2020, we won the gold, the Ole Award. SUR Coffee did. So that was a real awesome prestigious award to win. So for small little in town accomplishment that we were super psyched on. So we're doing well over there. That's my new gig too as well. Just basically it just comes down to the gym, family, God, and the coffee shop.
Coffee.
And the beach.
that should be a shirt right there. Gym, family, God, coffee.
God first though. That's the God. God's gonna be on top. God, family.
Well, I know you glossed over real quick, but how Hawaii? Do you still go back there a lot and you surf? What island are you on?
So my family's originally from Big Island. My mom went through like Rosewood, but we were kind of more raised on Oahu. My great grandpa, my mom's grandpa was Manny Cabral. So Manny Cabral is like a famous Paniolo on the Big Island. There's a big up in Waimea. There's a Cabral family ranch up there, like a Paniolo ranch, 400-acre ranch up there, and that's where my family's originally from. And so we love the Big Island. I mean, of course, we go back and visit cousins all over Oahu, and I have family over on the west side and lifeguards, and my uncle was the captain of the lifeguards over there. My cousin's a rescue ski driver on the west side, which is super cool. So we'll go over there and visit, and surf over there. And we love the west side. Go surf Makaha Beach and hang out with Makani and Nalu and my uncle Tine. And but then I got family over on the North Shore too as well. So now that my son's getting more experience, we're trying to, he was 12, now he's 13 now. So, he's just starting to surf a lot of the bigger waves. And so we're going to be starting venturing over more to the North Shore and hanging out with Makamai and all the other boys over there on that side of the island. But when we go out as a family, lots of times we like to go to the Big Island still, because it's still country. That's to be honest, when you go over there and where all the locals go, where do you go for a vacation? They're like, we go to the Big Island. If you don't know where to go, of course, and if you don't have like things to do or people to show you where to go, then it kind of could be, not as cool. But if you have the right connections and you know where to go, it is a beautiful place. And if you, of course, you treat the land, with respect, and you give all the locals, good love, and you're kind with them and nice to them, they're really, really usually super kind and nice back. So usually that's what's so cool about martial arts is it's usually give what you take. So if you're training with someone really hard, they're probably going to go really hard back. If you're kind of nice, then they'll probably be nice, and all those good qualities of martial arts ends up rolling over to every aspect of your life, and it happens organically. You don't even realize it. So you just give out good vibes, and good vibes end up coming back. So we go Big Island, spread good love, and go out there, Waipio and Makalavana, and all sorts of cool spots that we love over there. Kiholo and my Auntie Chan, and my Auntie Holani over there, and we got some good family over there. That's just really rad to go visit.
Before I knew you had a Hawaii background, I would sit, Kingston was in your class. I'm like, he's got some pigeon in there. I hear a little bit of Hawaii in there. I got to ask him about that.
I try not to. When I try every once in a while, a little something will slip out. Pump your brakes, but with the kids, I'm not Hawaiian though either. I'm Portuguese, so I'm Portuguese. I'm a Portuguese. I'm not Kanaka, so I try not to. And I wasn't really raised over there. I was just, we're born. My family's from there. We're born there. My mom was a flight attendant. My dad was a pilot. When I was really little, my parents got divorced, and then my mom was like I said, she was a flight attendant. So we ended up moving all over, when I was little, like so many different, wherever she was basically based, we moved, so from, like, I remember living in Houston, like we were going to like Newark and Colorado and Denver. And then we were like in LA and like we ended up settling in my mom and my stepdad when I was like 10 or 7. And then we ended up settling in Lake Forest. But we were always going back and forth to Hawaii. That was always our home. That's one thing that we never really had like a home base. But since that was our roots, that was always the one place that we always really called home was Hawaii. So we were really blessed to always have that, and we was born, kind of raised all over, but Hawaii is definitely the roots. Yeah. So we were super lucky, super blessed. You know, we was really poor, but we had so much love in my family. Mom, I didn't really even realize it, kind of, you know, growing up. And I was so little too as well. A lot of things looking back on. Yeah, I had a rough life, and you know, it was craziness. But you know, when you're so little, you're going through it. You don't really doesn't really. Um, it wasn't. I was young enough that I was able to kind of move on from it. And then my mom and my stepdad, and that was just like I said before, it was before Ian and after Ian. Yeah. So then, yeah, when I was like 7, you know, my life changed drastically, and it was all for the better. So it was great.
That's awesome. Well, how long I know you just had knee surgery. How long are you out of the water for? Because I see your boards back there.
Yeah, this is just one of my quivers right here, dude. Yeah, so I got like, yeah, I got all these ones right here. Those are like some of my old schoolies.
Yeah.
My snowboard. Yeah, I'd say like maybe like he said 6 to 9 months, you know, but I was like, I just went to him. Then I got these ones right here too as well.
Oh, nice. It's a little JOB action, soft top there.
Here's a cool little picture. I'll show you a couple little pictures. This is when I went to, me and Justin Madison went back in the early 2000s. We went out to Indonesia with Surfing Magazine. And we went on a boat trip sailed from Lakey Peak all the way back to Bali. And Justin ended up getting the cover of Surfing Magazine, I think, on that trip. But yeah, this was a couple of shots from right here. That's me.
Oh, nice.
There's one, if you could see, this is the quiver right here. There's another one right there.
Behind the quiver. Where was that at? That's Indo?
Yeah, that's Indo. That was Desert Points and Super Sucks.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, then in the garage I have like a whole nother like probably 50 surfboards in there too as well.
When you get better, let's get out in the water.
Yeah, guaranteed, dude. We're gonna get out there for sure, dude. That's the plan. Just had the 1 month pre-op or post-op yesterday with Dr. Kramer. Dr. Kramer did my knee surgery. Okay. ACL, LCL, meniscus. Meniscus was ripped off the bone and turned backwards in there. So he said that and then cut in the top of my quad right here and take a huge graft off my quad muscle and use that to anchor down as an ACL.
Yeah.
But 4 weeks, and I'm already feeling great, dude. Like I already can move it. Yeah, I'm getting my mobility back, getting my strength back. I can do my one-legged lunges, stiff-legged raises without any heel drag.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Man, you're at the 99th percentile of healing. We just got to get that swelling down. The strength-wise, you're off the charts." And he's like, "Just don't go too fast." You know, that's what he was saying. He's like, I can already see you like try to push it already. He's like, "So just pump your brakes a little bit." Well, pump your brakes, bro.
Well, Labovich did my shoulder. He's in Kramer's office. Dr. Labovich.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's the one who did my shoulder.
Okay, yeah. So all those guys up in Newport Beach, that practice up there is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, so but he said realistically like 4 months. Yeah, 4 months I'll be kind of cruising with longboarding, just more like just like getting the flow back, getting that strength back. But like I don't want to overdo it. I want this to be something that lasts for the rest of my life, and because I want to get back on the mountain snowboarding too as well. Snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing, jiu-jitsu. Now I'm just a big little kid. I live vicariously through my son. So whatever he likes to do, I like to do. We're going mountain biking, we're rock climbing, we're That's fishing, great. We're snowboarding. We got season passes, we got icon passes to Mammoth. So every Tuesday we're going snowboarding, doing all the rails, the boxes, the jumps. That's how I did this actually. Yeah. Overshot the same day. I went on a rail, slipped off the rail, and then tacoed it. Cracked my rib, fell off the rail, separated my shoulder right there. Yeah. Separated my shoulder, cracked your rib. And then I was like, it ended up being just an AC separation, which they were like, oh, you don't need to get surgery for it, which ended up fixing it naturally, just healing it. And then my rib wasn't in a crack. It was just, I strained the rib lining, but that was in the morning. And then the same day I tore my knee, I thought, well, I'm like, maybe it was a sore. And so I'm like, I'm going to send it on the big jump at the bottom. And there's like these 4 jumps, like 55 feet from from the kicker to the knuckle. You have to clear it at the bottom of the bear, the bottom big 4 jumps. And the last one, I overshot it. We went to lunch and they must have like just cleaned it and iced it or something, threw salt on it. So it was all slick and it was like, phew, and it sent me. I did it all morning. I was landing it perfect. And then this one just went, phew, and I was like, I overshot the jump by like 10, 15 feet. I landed in the flats and I didn't even crash. I landed tail first still. And whoa, I landed like in a rut right when my front came down. Boom, in this rut, like, oh, my knee went kink. And I felt it go, pah, and I ended up like sliding out. Didn't even fall. And go up to my son. He's like, that was sick. Him and Nicky went. I'm like, how about 80? And I tried to put weight on it, and it was like and I didn't want to take the sled of shame down either. So I was like, I'm not going on that damn sled of shame, dude. I'm gonna
pride, man. Pride the motherfucker.
No, not that guy. So I was lucky I was already at the bottom. I could see where I needed to get, and I just like 1-footed it, and I got to there, and then I tried to unclip, and I put weight on it, and it like buckled. My buddy Nicky was right there, and I caught myself, and my son Kingston was on this side, and he kind of carried me down to the little thing, and then the first aid guys came up, and they're like, oh man, iced me up, but at least I got to pull my truck up right up front, and I got front row parking pickup VIP.
little silver lining out of the whole story.
The silver lining of all of it, dude. I have to wait and go all the way down the bottom to get my truck. I have to pull all the way up to get the VIP pickup. Yeah, nice. But Nicky Way had to drive my truck, and that was 6 weeks ago, and then actually 10 weeks ago, because 10 weeks ago I did it for 6 weeks. I did it, and then 6 weeks went by because I wanted to see Warren Kramer, who was like the best surgeon. Yeah. And then I finally got into him, and he did the surgery, and I did 6 weeks of post-op or pre-op or prehab, working, doing all the physical therapy and getting everything stronger and stuff. And then it ended up really helping me out for the surgery, because when I had the surgery, all those muscles were really strong already. Yeah. I almost felt like I didn't even need it. I went snowboarding again, actually, and I didn't even have an ACL. Full thickness tear of the ACL, 3/4 tear of the MCL, 2nd degree tear of the LCL. My meniscus was ripped off the bone and turned backwards. There was a 1/4 chip off the top of the fibia and the tibia where it went in so hard. And he's like, that's what looks like you jumped off a building. I go, basically kind of did. But when it was all said and done, I'm healing so fast. They did the PRP injections when they did the surgery, and he's all Adam, all the prehabs, all that prehab stuff that you did before is the reason why you're healing so fast. That's night and day difference. You know, those muscles are already strong. And so, yeah, I'm really lucky, really blessed. And I'm not afraid to do the work. That's the thing too. It's like where everyone else, or not everyone else, for most people, a lot of people are lazy. It's like, tell me to do 10, I'll do 30, you know, tell me to do, So I'm just doing all the exercises, really eating right, you know, drinking a lot of water, rubbing a lot of CBD oil on it, doing the E-stem, stretching it a bunch, massaging it, icing, live on the ice machine. And then now you've already seen, man, I got to teach class now too as well. So my cat's trying to jump on it.
You're active.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I had tons of questions here, but man, you covered it all.
I was going to say, dude, you probably had a bunch of questions. I've done a bunch. Yeah.
you did awesome though. Like the whole storyline, that just like, I'm like, okay, check that one out. Check that. Yeah. We covered it all. Okay,
cool. I wasn't quite sure what you're kind of looking for, you know, but I figured I'm just gonna be me, you know. I'm just gonna tell you and hopefully that's what you guys like.
And that's all that we do. The Savage Waterman, that's all it is. You're a savage, and that's why I wrapped it up with the Hawaii stories and stuff. Cover some of the water part, but yeah, that's all I wanted. I try to make these like just two guys talking story and talking, you know, shooting the shit with each other. So that's what it's fun for me, and hopefully it's fun for you too. But I really appreciate it. You did awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Thanks again for the opportunity. Yeah. Anything you guys need, don't hesitate to ask. And if you ever want to train martial arts, make sure you stop. Yeah, don't hesitate to stop by. Fight Strong.
Yeah. I'll put all the links. Give me the one to the coffee one, but I know Fight Strong. Anything else you want me to?
Yeah, the coffee one is. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll send everything over to you for sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, Adam. Well, I appreciate it. Go rest that knee, and I'll see you soon.
Right on, bro.
All right, brother.
Thanks again, brother. Aloha, brothers. I'll talk to you soon. All right. You.